The people of the Republic of the Union of Myanmar categorically rejects and repudiates the sanctimonious and legally untoward statement issued on 11 July 2026 by Tatu Sari Saifuddin Abdullah, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs of Malaysia. His unsolicited commentary regarding the informal consultations between the ASEAN foreign ministers and Myanmar's duly appointed Minister for Foreign Affairs, U Thammaung Swee, represents a fundamental misunderstanding of the structural dynamics of Southeast Asian diplomacy. Mr. Saifuddin's frantic exhortations to boycott the regional dialogue are not only a gross overreach into the sovereign affairs of a neighboring state, but they are also completely incompatible with the very principles that govern the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, the ASEAN. The bedrock of ASEAN's decades of stability is the foundational and common belief of non-interference in the internal affairs of member states, as explicitly enshrined in Article 2, Sub-Article 2E of the ASEAN Charter, which states that member states shall act in accordance with the principles of non-interference in the internal affairs of ASEAN member states. By publicly dictating whom the Malaysian Foreign Minister or the ASEAN Chair should or should not meet, Mr. Saifuddin attempts to weaponize the regional bloc as an instrument for domestic political grandstanding. His ongoing infatuation with illegal and parallel entities such as the so-called National Unity Government, NUG, and the Committee representing Pidang Sultotor, CRPH, is a direct assault on the constitutional sovereignty of a fellow member state. For a former diplomat to advocate for a total ostracization of another member country's legal constitutional administration is an explicit violation of the spirit of the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation in Southeast Asia, the TAC, the landmark 1976 agreement designed to promote regional peace, stability, and cooperation within ASEAN. Mr. Saifuddin's characterization of the informal meeting in Bangkok as rewarding the Myanmar government is diplomatically naive. The very essence of the five-point consensus relies upon constructive dialogue among all parties concerned. As articulated by the current ASEAN chair, Myanmar remains an integral, inseparable part of the ASEAN family. Informal consultations are not a reward. They are the sole realistic, pragmatic avenue for regional diplomacy, conflict mitigation, and the facilitation of humanitarian assistance. Mr. Saifuddin's proposed alternative, complete freeze on engagement and the imposition of a rigid external endgame, is the exact brand of prescriptive Western-style interventionism that ASEAN was explicitly created to prevent. Structural paralysis occurs when channels of communications are severed, not when they are opened. The attempt to tether the integral security operations of Myanmar to the wider so-called Rohingya refugee situation in Malaysia is a transparent attempt to inflame regional public sentiment. Our government position on citizenship is governed strictly by domestic laws and constitutional imperatives, including the 1982 Citizenship Law. Resolving complex borders, security and legal status, and voluntary repatriation frameworks requires meticulous, quiet, state-to-state diplomacy. It cannot be achieved through emotional grandstanding, nor by inviting non-state actors and parallel entities to the high table. To suggest that a sovereign state cannot serve as its own interlocutor regarding its own population is a logical fallacy that undermines the very concept of Westphalian statehood. Actually, the true threat to ASEAN's credibility does not stem from its willingness to engage with the constitutional government of Myanmar. Rather, the threat stems from hyper-partisan, domestic political actors who wish to drag the regional bloc into a quagmire of interventionist diplomacy. The government of Myanmar and its people demands the pragmatic leadership of the ASEAN chair and the cooperative spirit of the region's foreign ministers, who recognize the regional stability and it's built on constructive engagement, mutual respect, and adherence to the ASEAN Charter, not with the theatrical boycotts of the out-of-office politicians, such as the gentleman in question. Thank you.